So good morning, class, and welcome to your credit and collection class. So today we'll discuss financial analysis, property inspection, and appraisal process. Okay, so let's talk about financial statement analysis. So previously, last session, we talked about the different basic financial statements. No? So we have identified them as your balance sheet, your profit and loss, and your cash flow statements. Now, in the process of, looking into your financial statement, what are the key components that you're actually checking? No? So in financial statement analysis, we evaluate the company's financial performance and financial position. No? So when we're looking at the financial performance, we're actually looking at the profit and loss statement. And when it comes to financial position, it's actually your balance sheet. No? So remember, your balance sheet, we're basically looking at your asset, your liabilities, and equity. No? So and going back to the accounting equation, that's actually your asset is equals to liabilities plus equity. No? So what are the primary objectives of doing financial statement analysis? Number one, assess profitability. Again, going back to your profit and loss statement, we look at your total profitability. No? So we look at your gross sales, less your cost of sales, no, to arrive to your gross margin. And then from there, we deduct all your expenses. No? So there's general and administrative expenses, marketing expenses, sales and marketing expenses. No? Then we have your net income. Next, we evaluate liquidity. Again, when we talk about liquidity, we're actually just looking at the ability of the company to pay its short-term obligations. No? So for example, what are your short-term obligations as an entity? Payroll, paying your vendor for merchandise purchases. No? We also measure solvency and risk. No? So solvency, again, it's the ability of the entity to pay its long-term obligations. No? So if we have any loans, no, with terms of, in accounting, current is basically just whatever is going to mature within the year. No? So anything that's going to mature beyond 1 year, so we call it non-current. No? So that's long term already. We also analyze operational efficiency. So when we're talking about operational efficiency, for example, the amount of labor, no, that we input into the product. No? So how is it going to effect in terms of total sales? No? So I'll give you an example. No? So in a manufacturing company or manufacturing firm, no? So for example, a garment or bag manufacturing. No? So we need thread, textile. Obviously we need direct labor, direct material, no? And also indirect labor in and other overhead. No? So operational efficiency is basically checking how much of this total cost is attributed to the final or total sales. No? Support investment or lending decisions. No? So again, we evaluate the financial statement of our prospective customer. No? So that's part of our due diligence. No? Again, going back to credit and collection, um, we look at our customer's financial statement to agree on their credit terms. No? So for example, customer A has a good credit standing. Customer B doesn't have a good credit standing. So between these two customers, we may be providing extended credit terms to customer A because again, he has a good credit standing. For customer B, we need to evaluate more, no? So we can then look at their um, financial statements, no? So we look at their 3-year income statement or profit and loss statement. Are they generating enough sales? Are they generating net income? O baka naman naka-net loss na yan, no? So interpretation of ratios, no? So financial ratios convert accounting numbers into meaningful indicators, no? That's also that's also the same in terms of your financial statements, no? So say for example, for the past 3 years, the company is generating revenue, no? So generating uh, gross sales, no? And then remember, while it's good that we're targeting gross sales, no, we have to make sure that we're converting it into cash, no? And there are two types of sales, no? We have there's cash sales and there's credit sales, no? So in terms of credit sales, are we able to convert it into cash, no? So that's the question. So some key considerations when interpreting ratios, no? So later on class, we'll talk about different ratios, no? That we use in order to assess a company. No? So number one, we compare it with industry benchmarks, no? So industry meaning we look at different companies within the same industry. For example, if we're going to evaluate Smart Telecom, so we evaluate Smart Telecom together with Globe, together with Dito, ano pa ba, TNT, no? Say we're evaluating oil companies, no? So right now, it's the current event, no? It's very crucial, no? So the amount of fuel keeps rising, the price of fuel keeps rising, no? So then we evaluate Sea Oil, Phoenix, Shell, Petron, no? So these oil companies are within the same industry. Then then we look at the benchmarks, no? So meaning if it's benchmark, it's a standard or it's the norm. Then we analyze trends over multiple periods, no? So trending, so we look at different I mean, we look at the same company within the industry, then we look at say 5-year period, no? We consider company strategy and economic environment, no? So I'll give you another example. We look at pharmaceutical industry, no? So what are the different players within the pharmaceutical industry, no? So we have Pfizer, GlaxoSmithKline, Unilab, no? So while Unilab is um, more of, generics medicines, no, compared to Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline, they're branded medicines. What else? Johnson and Johnson's. So we look at company strategy. For example, Pfizer's strategy is to become the number one pharmaceutical company in the Philippines by 2028. So is it aligned? No, we then check their financial statements. Are they able to hit the target? Next, we also look at the economic environment. So um, what's the economic condition right now in the Philippines to enable that goal? No? This again, the strategy of Pfizer is to become the number one pharmaceutical company in the Philippines by 2028. Is there still huge demand for medicines? No, the answer is yes, because patients generally rely on physicians' prescription. Finally, we avoid relying on a single ratio, no? So there are other ratios interconnected that we also need to look into, no? So to enable us uh, to arrive into decision making, no? So whether again going back to our subject, credit and collection, no? So whether to extend or whether to lend money to um particular customer. Now, let's look at the different ratios. Now, again, liquidity ratios measure a firm's ability to meet short-term obligations. So take note, class, short-term obligations or current obligations or obligations that we have to settle um, in the next period, no? For within the next month or within the month. So some common liquidity ratios are current ratio, no? So look at this. Current assets over current liabilities, no? So we have defined what's current, no? Sabi natin, basically current is it's something that will mature or that you plan to hold within the year only, no? So some common current assets are your cash, accounts receivable, inventory, no? So current liabilities naman, accounts payable, accrued expenses, no? Then we have quick ratio. So quick ratio, the formula is current assets less inventory over current liabilities. The reason why it's quick ratio, meaning because inventory, for example, we cannot conclude that it is quick, no? So meaning you can easily convert it into cash, no? So you have to sell in inventory and then transform it into accounts receivable before collecting it into cash, no? So that's why quick ratio, we exclude the inventory from the current asset. And then finally, we have the cash ratio, no? So cash over current liabilities. So here, we're checking how much cash we have in order to settle your current liabilities. And remember, um, the most efficient way to settle your current liabilities is by paying cash, no? So we don't want to wait for accounts receivable to be collected, no? We won't say to our employees, or employees, you have to wait because I haven't collected my receivable from customer A, no? So we don't do that. And that's why cash ratio is very important. How much cash is left in our bank in order to settle our short-term obligations, no? I cannot tell my suppliers, for example, so I have purchased 50,000 pesos worth of merchandise last month, and it will become due, say, on the 31st of March, no? So tomorrow. So I cannot tell my suppliers to wait because I don't have cash right now, no? And that's why it's really important to look at the cash flow, no? So that's why we also do our cash flow forecasting. Okay, so that's liquidity ratios. So let's look at an example of a liquidity ratio. Now let's compute for current ratio and quick ratio. Now, class, no, in credit and collection class, we're not going to focus on your knowledge of the financial statement. So this is just good to know, no. So what we're going to emphasize here is the concept, no. So we need to understand the concept so that we can enable our decision making whether to extend credit or not, whether to lend money or not, no? So here, let's look at current ratio and quick ratio, no? So a company reports current assets for 500,000, inventory of 120,000, and current liabilities of 250,000, no? So again, um, this is in group, no? But in reality, current assets could be your cash, accounts receivable, inventory, prepaid expenses or prepaid assets, no? Then for your current liabilities, you can have accounts payable, accrued expenses, payroll, no? Accrued payroll. Okay? So let's have requirement 1 and 2. So let's compute for current ratio and quick ratio. Okay, so current ratio, remember what's our formula, no? So let's go back to our previous slide, no? So current ratio is it's current assets over current liabilities, no? So now for quick ratio, we just exclude inventory, no? So let's go back to the sample problem. So current ratio, it's 500,000, your current asset, less over 250,000, your total um, current liability. So we have 2.0. Now for quick ratio, remember we just have to exclude your inventory, no? So current asset of 500,000 less 120,000 over 250,000, that's 1.52. So the interpretation is the company has a strong short-term liquidity. So meaning its current assets can easily pay off its current liabilities, no? So it has a strong short-term liquidity, no? So again, what's the definition of liquidity? It's the ability of the company to pay its short-term obligation, no? So what's this ratio is telling us is that the company is able to pay its suppliers for merchandise purchases, payroll for employees, utility bills. Okay? And that's indication of, again, a strong short-term liquidity. And we like that, no? So if we're going to assess this customer, for example, and we're just looking at its liquidity ratio, then it's it's telling us that yes, we can extend credit to this customer. Okay? So that's liquidity ratio. Let's look at the next set of ratios, no? So it's called solvency ratios. Solvency ratios measures the firm's long-term financial stability. Or in other words, solvency, it's the ability of the entity to pay its long-term obligations. So some common solvency ratios are debt to assets. No? So that's total debt over total assets. No? So here, class, when we say total, that includes current and non-current. No? So, 'di ba earlier we defined current as being, these are current liabilities or your obligations that are becoming due within the year. No? Now, for total debts or total liabilities, no? So don't be confused on that. No? So total debt or total liabilities, that's the same. In accounting, remember our accounting equation is asset is equals to liabilities plus equity. So your total assets is equals to total debt or your total liabilities plus total equity. Okay, so here, debt to asset ratio is equals to total debt, again, total debt or total liabilities plus over your total assets. Debt to equity ratio is your total debt over equity. No? And then finally, interest coverage ratio or your EBIT. No? So when we say EBIT, that's your earnings before interest and tax. Earnings before interest and tax. No? So in your profit and loss statement, remember, you have your gross sales, less cost of sales, you get your gross margin. Then you deduct your expenses. No? So meron tayong general and administrative expenses, sales and marketing expenses. No? And then from there, you get your operating income. So from operating income, you deduct your interest and taxes. Then you can get your um, net income. No? So your operating income is equivalent to your earnings before interest and taxes. So EBIT over the interest expense. So yeah, that's your interest coverage ratio. So meaning how much is left before your interest and taxes that can cover the interest expense. No? So remember, class, this is important. So we're looking at the interest expense because this is the amount that you pay, that this is the interest for the debt that you have. No? So at the standpoint again of someone of the or entity that's going to extend or lend money to another entity or another person. Okay? So remember, our standpoint here is from someone who's assessing whether to extend money or extend credit or lend money to another individual. No? So that's why we're looking at the interest coverage ratio, because this will tell us how much money is left for this entity to cover for the interest expense. Now, of course, as a creditor, we want we want this person to be able to pay us interest and principal, no? So we want them to be able to pay their amortization. Okay? So let's now look at some example, no? So let's have this example on solvency ratio. Total assets is 2 million, total debt is 800,000, and total equity is 1.2. So ito, again, no? What's our accounting equation? Accounting equation is total assets. So that's 2 million is equals to total liabilities plus equity. So here, your total liability is 800,000 and your total equity is 1.2 million. So that's 2 million. No? So that's the accounting equation. So that's equivalent. No? So now, the requirements are, number one, compute the debt to asset ratio. And number two, compute the debt to equity ratio. Okay, so debt to asset, we have 800,000 total debt over 2 million. 2 million is your total asset. Not for one moment. Then debt to equity. So total debt again is 800,000 and your total equity is 1.2 million. No? So that's 800,000 over 1.2 million, so that's 0.67. No? So basically, the interpretation here is the company is moderately leveraged. So what does moderately leverage means? No? So basically, the company uses a balance of mix of debt and equity to finance its assets. Typically, with a debt to equity ratio around 1:1 or a debt to asset ratio around 50%. No? So this indicates manageable financial risk where debt is used to fuel growth without incurring excessive debt servicing. No? So basically, class, this is telling us that this company has equity that is lower than the total, has total debts that is lower than its total equity. No? So again, class, no? So there are two ways to finance the business. It's via debt or via equity. No? So in this case, this is good because you know um, there's a good mix of debt and ownership in the business. So again, just by looking at solvency ratio, we can say that yes, it's looking good and we can extend credit. We can lend money to this company or to this individual. There's another set of ratios. It's called operating efficiency. No? So the efficiency ratios evaluate how effectively a firm uses its assets. No? So again, class, no? We use the assets to generate revenue. No? So we have some examples here. Inventory turnover, cost of goods sold over the average inventory, receivable turnover. So that's net credit sales over average accounts receivable. And then we have the asset turnover. So that's basically your total sales over total assets. Now, pag-usapan natin to, let's talk about the inventory turnover. So in inventory class, remember we purchase merchandise. No? So we are in a merchandising business, for example. Again, this is on the part of the um uh oops. This is on the part of the individual or company asking for money, no? So probably that company is looking into expanding, no? And us evaluating whether we're going to extend money, no? Obviously, we look at inventory turnover, no? So the amount of money that company is using to purchase merchandise but that goes into the inventory, no? So yun yung cost of goods sold. Meaning this is the amount of inventory in relation to the amount to the quantity being sold, no? For example, I have earlier we talked about bags, no? So the amount of the unit of bags that we sold, for example, is 100 units, no? So out of 100 units of bags, the selling price, for example, is 10 pesos, no? So I'm just exaggerating here, not thinking just to make a point, no? So for example, the selling price is 10 and the total cost of goods sold is say 5. So you have selling price of 10, cost of goods sold of 5. So then we have gross margin of 5, no? Which is okay, no? That's basically 50% gross margin. Now inventory turnover is telling us how much is still left in the inventory in relation to the amount to the quantity sold, no? So later on we'll look at uh a sample problem. Now in terms of receivable turnover, this is just basically telling us how much effort is being exerted in order for us to uh transform credits into cash, no? Because earlier we talked about that there are two types of sales, no? Cash sales, basically sales that's being paid outright, no? And then there's credit sales, no? So where we extend credit terms to our customers. Okay, so let's look at uh, this sample problem. So sample problem, we have net sales of 3 million and then total assets of 1.5. So let's compute for the asset turnover. So asset turnover is 3 million over 1.5 million, no? So let's go back to the formula. Asset turnover is simply your total sales over total assets. So total sales of 3 million over total assets of 1.5 million. So that gives us 2.0. So the interpretation here is each peso invested in assets generates 2 pesos in sales, which is good, no? Because basically this is telling us that we're using our assets efficiently. Next, let's look at the inspection and appraisal. Inspection and appraisal involve evaluating the condition and value of property. Uh, Here, class, the context is we're looking at property as collateral for the loan. No? So properties could be, um, it could also be an accounts receivable from another customer. It could be your inventory. No? So if you're going to use accounts receivable, you're basically factoring it. You're basically selling your accounts receivable. So what's the purpose of inspecting and and doing some appraisal of this property? So the purpose would be number one, determine the market value, support lending decisions, insurance and taxation, and again, investment evaluation. So types of properties. So common property classifications, it could be residential. So that's houses, condominiums, commercial, office buildings, malls, industrial, so warehouses, factories, and then agricultural, so farmland, no? So in the context of properties, these are the properties that we're going to talk about, no? But remember, um, in accounting, properties could mean anything that you possess, that you own, no? And that's why earlier I said it could also be accounts receivable. It could also be some of your other assets within your balance sheet. So guidelines in conducting actual appraisal, no? So some key steps. Number one, property inspection. It's either you inspect the property or you hire someone, because again, we can hire a third party to do these appraisal activities for us because we need expert opinion, no? Uh, Especially if your background is accounting, it's better to hire or to employ another party to do this for you. Number two, verify ownership and legal documents. So again, it's highly recommended to employ another party to do this for you. Evaluate location and accessibility. uh what if the property being used as collateral is, say, it's located in far-flung area, no? So that will affect your evaluation. Compare with recent market sales, no? So there are platforms that we can use for this. Estimate replacement cost and depreciation, no? So depreciation is basically, uh for example, we're talking about a building, no? So we depreciate a building, no? So it's basically the value that we employ in the actual deterioration of the property. And then we prepare appraisal report, no? So again, like I said, this actual appraisal activities can be done by another party. Plus, I'm going to share another link because I have another topic to discuss. No? But as you can see, this Zoom link will stop in 2 minutes. No? So let's pause for a 5-minute break and then we'll come back with another link. No? I'll share the link in the Google Classroom. No? So see you. See you, class.